that each student can. Okay, so in the transition state theory, what happened whenever the reactant passing from the whenever the reactant passing through the reactant to product, they must have to go through the transition states. Okay, where the bond formation and bond breaking, both the process taking simultaneously. So this state we called it as the transition state. In the chemical reactions, we represent it in the square brackets, means that it is a short time and it is a transition states. So this theory is explained by the scientists Polanyi, Eyring, Polzer, Wigner, and other scientists. And the fundamental idea, means main idea of this theory, is that the reactant molecule first must collide with the one another and form the activated complex or the transition complex. This is the main idea behind the activated complex theory, which then decompose to form the products. So in the reactant molecules must having the some sufficient energy, and they first collide and redistribution of the energy, and then the valence bond whatever they having the that bond breaking and bond formations takes place and form the activated complex. So this is the theory passing, and each reactions in which each reactions has an activated complex which is having the characteristic of that particular reactions, and that activated complex is have the transient existence only, means that uh, these are the similar to those of the ordinary molecules, and the rate of the reaction is given by the decomposition of the activated complex. So here on the screen given the uh, graph here, which indicated that here the molecules A plus BC, these are the reacting molecules which are come close to each other, and energy of the reaction is increases, means the potential energy increases, which is indicated in the graph at the peak of the graph, where A dot dot B dot dot C means the bond formations and bond breaking, these both processes taking simultaneously, and at the same time here is a bond breaking bond process takes place, and when the intermediate, that is the activated complex, break the bonds with the reacting molecules and form the bonds in the new molecules, then it loses the energy and there is the formation of the products. So here is the A plus BC gives the AB new bond formations and C is bond break from the BC. So this undergoes the transition state. This state is called as transition state or activated complex state. So this theory is called as activated complex theory or transition state. In the earlier theory, we show that the collision, in the collision theory we have studied that for the perfect reactions collision must be there. Okay, collision, in the collisions colliding molecules must have the sufficient amount of energy, and the colliding molecules must collide with the proper orientation. These are important, but this condition is also important that whenever reacting molecules converting from the reactant to the product, it must pass through the activated complex. Okay, this activated complex is explained by the activated complex theory. So this is all about the the activated complex theory. In that we mention all these things. Okay, next here again we again explain the another example, that is A plus B, which is converted into the C plus D. And as the A plus B approaches to one another, these are the reactant molecules, the energy of the reaction is increases and form the activated complex, and which is another name is the transition states. Okay, so in the reaction step, as the reactant molecules A and B come together, they dissolve and begin to share and exchange the or discard the atoms. They form the loose structure A plus B of high potential energy called as activated complex, that is important to form the product, that is C plus D. The peak of this energy between the molecules, and the peak, that is the EA, that is energy of the activations. So potential energy of the falls as the atoms rearrange and the final come to the products at the step, that is conversion into the C plus D. Here the one example is also explained here. That is reacting molecules, one tetrahedral molecules here, okay, and another molecules which approaching toward these tetrahedral molecules, linear molecule approaching toward the tetrahedral molecules. As the approaches, energy of the reaction is increases, means here is the formation of the transition state. This is called as activated complex formations. Means that these linear molecules approach toward these tetrahedral molecules and form the transition state, means form the dash bond, and at the same time one bond of the tetrahedral molecule is also breaking, means formation of dash bonds. So this dash condition indicating that the one bond is breaking and one bond is formations taking place simultaneously, and this is called as the transition state, and which is then converted into the products, and you will get the final products along with the substitute. Here is the example is here given, that is a CS3Br methyl bromide reacting with the OH nucleophiles. So as there is the formation of the transition state. There is a dash bond is indicating that the OH is forming bond and Br is the removing bonds leaving group. So there is the formation of the alcohol, methyl alcohol, and the bromine Br minus bromine ions are the liberated from the reactions. So this is compulsory to come reactants converting to the products. They have to be passed through the transition state or activated complex. This all note. This the important note is that the reverse reaction step also have the activation energy, and in this case higher than for the forward direction steps. Next is here is the energy barrier diagrams, how the energies come, okay, how the energy of the reacting molecules increasing. So here again explain that the reactant molecules, here we have taken the another example of the hydrogen H2 along with the iodine molecule, that is I2. The H2 and I2, when they come close to each other, at the same time energy is increasing. Here is the energy graph increasing, indicating the potential energy of the reactant molecule is increases. Okay, the reactant molecule must acquire the form activated complex, and this is called as the important state of this reactions, that is the activated complex state. Means activated complex form is H2 molecules and I2 molecules are arranged in the form that there is an indication of the bond breaking, and the bond breaking simultaneously takes place, and the internal energy of the activated complex is the greater than that of the either the product molecules or the reactant molecules, and the complex is supposed to have the structure which is intermediate between that of the reactant molecule and of the product molecules. So the activated complex is situated at the peak of the energy barrier between the reactant and the products. So is indicate here is clearly indicated the in energy barriers, there is activated complex state. And this difference between the reactant molecules and the activated complex is the EA, means energy of the activations, and this is the delta H, means the difference in the energy of the reacting molecules, reactants, and the products. Okay, energy enthalpy delta H. Okay, energy. Okay, total energy change in enthalpy of these systems. So, on applying the statistically thermodynamics or the Eyring equations, expressions we will get for these reactions, and that expressions indicated that these expressions we have, okay, this expression indicating that the rate of the reactions according to activated complex theory. Another important terms are there. Okay, this theories, these notes we have provided to all the students. These important notes, in that we have mentioned all the important points. That is, this is the because this theory is based on the idea about all chemical reactions. Reactant molecule must form an activated complex or the transition complex which then decompose to form the products. The reactant molecules having the sufficient energy must first collide and redistribute the energy. Valence bond must take place to form the activated complex. So activated complex has a short life and break up into the products. Since it has the transient and momentarily existence, hence it is called as transition state, and the energy of the activation of the reaction is added energy which the reactant molecule acquire in order to form the activated complex. So it is a, here is the difference between the energy of activation and that is the activated complex theory and energy of the reacting molecule. That is difference is the, here is the EA is the difference. Okay, this is next is the step of this reaction is activated complex. Here the graph representations, and another is the reactant molecule, that is N2O5, which is break into the N2O4 as the product and undergoing the deep transition state. Means here is the bond formations and bond breakings taking place simultaneously. So these points are mentioned in the our notes. Here we derive the one of the important derivations for the activated complex theory. So this derivation is used to find out the terms which are involved in this. Okay, here we use the terms, that is the K means for the rate of the reactions. Okay, R is constant, T is the temperature, and NH is also the one of the constant terms. Okay, this is the constant term at a definite temperatures, and it is independent of the nature of the reactant and the product involved in the reactions. So ये किसी पे भी डिपेंड नहीं है. ओके, और ये जो इक्वेशन वी हैव ड्राइव दिस इक्वेशन बाय यूजिंग द important Eyring equations. Okay, so Arrhenius equations, Eyring equations, from this we have drawn these important equations of the ln k is equal to ln k is equal to ln RT divided by NH plus delta S star divided by R minus delta H star divided by RT, where NH is the constant. Okay, and it is definite at the temperatures and the independent nature of the reactant and the product involved in the reactions, किसी पे भी डिपेंड नहीं है. उसके बाद यहाँ पर जो है डेल्टा एस, तो डेल्टा एच क्या है? इट इज अ स्टैंडर्ड इंथैल्पी चेंज. डेल्टा एच इज द स्टैंडर्ड इंथैल्पी चेंज. ये कहाँ पे हमने इंडिकेट किया था डेल्टा एच? डेल्टा एच हमने देखा था कि रिएक्टिंग मॉलिक्यूल्स देखिए, डेल्टा एच का टर्म्स कहाँ पे यूज किया था हमने? रिएक्टिंग मॉलिक्यूल का कन्वर्जन जब इंटरमीडिएट स्टेट में होता है उस टाइम में हम जो इसको टर्म्स को हमने यहाँ पे डेल्टा एच बोल के देखिए, यहाँ पे रिएक्टिंग मॉलिक्यूल्स और प्रोडक्ट दोनों के बीच का जो डिफरेंस था इसको हमने डेल्टा एच बोलकर इंडिकेट किया है. So this is delta H, and what is delta S? Delta is S is the entropy. Okay, change in entropy. The standard entropy change of the activation is the delta S star. Okay, so by using these terms, and where R is the constant terms, T is the temperature of the reactions. So these are the important terms regarding the activated complex theory. So next and the last point of this topic is the comparison between the collision theory and absolute reaction rate theory. Okay, what is the comparison between these two theories? Okay. So important is that whenever we comparing these two theories, so we have to monitor the important points. This, like the collision theory, considered the simple collisions between the reacting molecules, and absolute reaction rate theory, it consider the activation of the molecules and the formation of the unstable activated complex. This is the big difference in between the activated complex theory and the collision theory. So for the collision theory, there must be collisions, okay, and for the activated complex theory, there must be formation of activated complex, that is a transition step. Collision theory is applicable to simple gas molecules. This is the most important points. The collision theory is applicable to only the simple gas molecules reactions, but fail to explain the complex molecular reactions. We have already studied this point in the limitation of the, and that is the collision theory, because it is the most important limitation, that it is applicable only for the gaseous molecules, okay, or not for the complex molecular reactions. So absolute reaction rate theory is applicable to simple as well as complex molecular theory. Activated complex theory सभी को apply हो सकती है. In collision theory, the reacting molecules are considered as the rigid sphere, okay, and the proper orientation is not problems. But in absolute reaction rate theories, which quantum mechanical pictures of the molecules, and the molecule are not rigid sphere, and hence the proper orientation cannot be decided. So these are the some important difference between the collision theory and activated complex theory. So the remaining part of these topics covered in the next lectures. Okay. इम्पोर्टेंट क्या है कि टॉपिक में जो है फार्मूले जो भी हैं रहेंगे, वो फार्मूलेज आप जो है याद रखिए. ओके, फार्मूलेज 3-4 फार्मूले हैं यहाँ पर. वो फार्मूलेज आपको न्यूमेरिकल्स में भी काम में आएंगे. ओके, so these are the all